You're on.
And let me see, make Erin find you and make co-host. I just clicked that, make co-host.
Okay, I see it.
So did that work?
Yep, that worked. Thank you.
Okay.
First of all, thank you all for having me here this evening. I appreciate it. It's nice to see you. I think I actually was last with you all maybe 4 or 3 years ago in person. So it's been a couple of years. Obviously, the pandemic has shifted things. So I appreciate you reaching out so that we could reconnect. I have a couple of slides just to anchor some of the points that I received from your president that you were hoping that I can address. And in this space, I'm fine if you ask questions throughout, so I can kind of pause after each section, if that works for everybody. And again, thank you for having us here. I'm excited to share about the wonderful work that our staff is doing and our amazing students at Emerson, which Brent knows well, the Emerson community. So let me pull up this PowerPoint. Okay, here we go. And when I'm sharing, I may not be able to see everybody's faces or hands. So if somebody has a question or you raise your hand, or just feel free to go off mute, or if I miss something in the chat, I apologize. I'm on one single screen at the moment. So again, just to kind of reshare, I know you're familiar with Emerson, just right down the street from you all. But again, we have about 320 students this year at Emerson, including our preschool program. We're normally closer to 350. We have seen just a slight drop in enrollment through the pandemic, as has been seen throughout this city and country. Again, you can see just a little bit about our demographics. We're a very diverse school. We have multiple languages. We're at about 16 to 14 languages being spoken within Emerson. And again, just a lovely diverse community where our students get to know students who have different cultural backgrounds, different beliefs. And again, it's something we just really value and are very proud of here at Emerson. So again, you can see kind of the demographics, how many of our students are qualifying for ELL services. That's about half of our school, and about 15% of our school are students who qualify for special education services. We have 3 different programs in our building that support students. Some of those programs support students from outside of Emerson's boundaries as well. And again, right now, we're one of the few whole school Title I elementary schools in Seattle Public Schools. So we're hovering somewhere around 70% of our students qualifying for free and reduced lunch services. So I think I'll pause there just to see if there are any general questions about Emerson before I shift into some of the topics that I know you all had asked about.
I have one question that I forget how many languages you said, but quite a few, and I was at a presentation. So do the kids speak, do they understand English, or do you have to have instruction in the foreign, whatever language?
Yeah, so our students are at all different stages. Our students who qualify for ELL services, right, in understanding English. For the most part, we have a smaller number of what we say emerging English language learners. And again, all of our instruction is in English. We do have 4 bilingual IAs, one who speaks Vietnamese, Amharic, Somali, and Spanish. And so we are able to support students as needed in that way, and families with translation services as well. And one of the things that we know and research supports is that students pick up, especially conversational English, quite quickly. It's that academic language that's specific to content areas that can often then take 3 to 4 or 5 years. That's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Vicky, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to unmute. There's no children in that building with a 504 plan. That kind of startles me.
I don't know where they're pulling that from. We do have students with 504 plans, so I don't know if systems maybe aren't talking to this. I pulled from just the demographic page, because we have students. We don't have many, but we do have some students who qualify for 504 plans.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll look into.
So Erin, what do you do at Emerson?
I'm the principal at Emerson Elementary School.
Awesome. I love to connect with you.
Yeah, Hutchinson. As soon as you were saying that, I was like, oh, we should talk. It's
Yeah.
great to connect.
I'll put my email in the chat.
Okay.
Is
wonderful.
it, are you guys a Title I school?
We are a Title I school.
Okay.
So Emerson is a Title I school. We also applied, it would have been in the fall of 2019 to the Family and Education Levy through the city of Seattle. So we are also a levy funded school. We have 4 more years of that funding as well. Great questions, thank you all. I think one of the questions was the effect of COVID, which was, that's a big question. And I think just some general things, if you've been, seeing in the news or reading, many of those things are true in what's impacting students. Again, just as this experience has impacted us each individually, it's same for our students and families. I think one of the things that we know is it's just been a lot of different transitions for students, right? Where we've either been remote, maybe are hybrid or in person this year. Not frequently, but sometimes having to potentially close a classroom. And so we know that that can just be really challenging. We know that consistency and routine is really important for students. It's something as a school, I think I heard you say PBIS, Danielle, earlier. So we use PBIS as well. So things that we're trying to mitigate as much as possible to minimize some of the transitions that are in our control. One of the things we also know is kids are really resilient, not that we would wish for this experience on our students or any child. What we do see is when we're setting different health protocols in place or different structures, they are able to adapt to that. We had pretty high attendance rates when we were remote last year, especially we focused on small groups and reading, and we had really high attendance there because students got to feel seen and heard in a small group. And we did a lot of community building and making sure it felt engaging and students wanted to be part of their online class as well as now in person. One of the things we have seen before the pandemic, Seattle Public Schools was not a one-to-one device district, meaning every student had a technology device. We are now. And so I can say, just the technology skills that students have learned, which is important in 21st century skills, is really quite remarkable and not surprising in just what they're able to navigate now. Again, just some things as we come back, we're still, we had lots of conversations just about stamina. So I think what we know in what we experienced in remote school is maybe we weren't working for the same length of duration that we might in school, right? We're not necessarily sitting for 7 hours. When we're at home, we were putting in specific breaks because we know screen time was also something we were thoughtful about. So I think something we're focusing on is stamina. And we really talked about that with writing. Again, with some of the online platforms last year, students could either write kind of with their finger on an iPad or do a voiceover. And so that's something that we've been focusing on as a school. And then again, students have adjusted well to health protocols. I don't know if every student loves having to wear a mask or social distancing, but they do really, they understand, and we talk a lot about the why and why we're doing that. And this is our community and how do we help keep each other safe. I also realize as I'm saying this, our COVID health protocols in Seattle Public Schools are adjusting on Monday with masks being optional. And so again, as I'm talking about transitions, there's just multiple transitions for students. So again, as a community, we try to talk about what can we do to help make sure students understand why. We're building in some supports and trying to, again, just help support as many transitions as possible. And I think I'll pause here to see if there are other questions around the effects of COVID.
One of my favorite things of my long 7 years with Emerson was all the cool events and the the musical and stuff like that. Any plans for that this year or not yet? Like,
That's a great question. I think we'll be learning more in the next couple of weeks about what we're able to do again in person in larger groups. I don't know. You are right, Matt. We had a really cool musical. We will again. I don't know if we'll be able to pull that off this year. It just takes a couple months for the students to learn it. But we are hopeful that we can again begin some of those in-person events that really did help bring that feeling of community. As creative as we've gotten with these virtual events, it's not quite the same, right, as being able to walk over and say hi to somebody. So that is, you're right, thanks for Brent for pointing that out, something that isn't as present that hopefully we'll be able to bring back. So I think there were questions about specific academic programs. And so if I'm not answering that question in what you were looking for, please let me know. But a couple of things that are just core to our instruction here at Emerson. Every student receives a small group at their reading level. That's one of the key things that we continued throughout each version of school, remote, hybrid, and in person with social distancing. Where every student meets with an adult 3 to 4 times a week at their reading level to get instruction. And it's consistently one of the things our students say is a highlight for them during the day, because again, you're in a small group, you're getting more interaction, more feedback from an adult, and it's at their level. So in that accelerated space. And so that's something we continue to prioritize with our schedule and with our staffing. All of our lessons are aligned to the Common Core standards. And so we are using the Center for Collaborative Classroom, CCC, for literacy instruction. The Amplify Science curriculum, that's our first year implementing this new science curriculum, which has more tech-based aspects, which is nice. And then Seattle Public Schools is going through a math adoption for next year, the curriculum. We have had a waiver the past 3 years using San Francisco Unified. The district there created a math curriculum. We will shift to the SPS curriculum next year, but that is what we've been focusing on the last 3 years, which works a lot on collaborative, which we've been creative about, social distancing, problem solving, and really thinking about more scenario-based applications of math. And then a couple of things that, again, just kind of tie into academic supports were funded from the district, some core staff, and then additionally with Title I funds or LAP state funds, as well as levy, there are some additional positions we've been able to consistently fund. So we have 3.5 academic interventionists in math and reading, and we have 2 school counselors. We've been able to have 2 staff supporting student social emotional learning. And then we have 1 student family advocate who's able to help support families with any basic needs that they have, as well as being able to be a liaison between family and school. And then we've been very blessed this year to have a 1.0, so a full-time nurse as well, which during a pandemic is really critical. And so those are some of the key things around kind of our academic program. And I will pause to see, because I'm not sure if I answered the question as you were asking it.
This is really good. I've worked with the school district for 19 years until I resigned. And this is really good, what you have at the school as far as staffing. And I understand wall block is at your school.
Yes.
You have 2, Tyra and Kelly are there.
Yes.
Cool. This is good. I can't wait to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Great. I am going to talk about WABLOC as well, which is Washington Building Leaders of Change. And so we have a contract with them, with Keisha, with Tyra, and they're helping us implement restorative justice here at Emerson. And I'll talk a little bit about what that has looked like. It might be next, actually. It is. So again, restorative justice. So this is something that you'll see also just as a core value within Seattle Public Schools. And it was actually in 2018, 2019, when we first started to work with WaBlock towards the end of the school year and implementing some community circles, which are really rooted in providing a space where everybody can share if they'd like, get to know one another with the belief, right? If we feel heard, if we know each other and care about each other, then we're really invested in our community. And so then in 2019, 2020, we started this work with WaBlock, really focusing on, we call it tier 1, which is what every student experiences, the community building, those community circles. And I'm not going to read the slides, I'll let you do that. And so they have been helping in developing a curriculum. And that first year they were helping model in classrooms. That got disrupted in March. But what we were able to do last year with Tyra's support is she's been writing a curriculum that's responsive to what's going on in the world, in our community, as well as developmentally, how do we get to know one another? And so throughout remote instruction, we held virtual community circles. And again, that was a really high attended space. And we've been able to continue that work this year. So twice a week, each class participates in a community circle where they get to know one another. It's also a time of day that students say is one of their preferred times. And so that's that tier 1 piece focused on social emotional learning, relationships. And then this year, with the support of Tyra and with Keisha, who's on site, we've been able to shift into tier 2 support. And so what we mean by that is the other part of restorative justice is how do we replace what has been traditionally punitive or kind of penalizing students when there's conflict, into focusing more on repairing harm and having an understanding in how that impacts my community. And so we have that support on site. And so if there's conflict, which we also talk about, conflict happens, it's very normal in our lives. And so when there is conflict, how can we then talk in a healthy way about where the harm happened and how can we repair it? And again, tier 3 supports look a lot more extensive in the secondary settings. This work is really been in place for many years in most of the secondary schools here in Seattle Public Schools. It's newer in elementary schools, so we're excited to be one of the schools really embracing this work. And so that would be more of like an intensive one-on-one support, again, focused back on community. And so I'll pause there. We are very excited about this work. And I will say it makes a significant difference in the community and with the students. And we have students who are now leading in conflict circles, which is really fun to see as well, and empowering for those students. So I'll pause and see if there are any questions or comments.
So including this piece here, Erin, are you guys also doing the PBIS at your school as well?
Yes. Yeah. So we started PBIS, we're in our 5th year of PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Interventions and Systems. And so we talk about as a school how they are actually quite different. I think sometimes when you're implementing both, they can, I don't know, sometimes get confused. We're saying restorative justice is really focused on the community building, relationship building. And then when there's conflict, which there will be, how do we respond in a way that's focused on love and care? And then PBIS is really rooted in consistency and positive interactions. So we talk about a 5-to-1, meaning 5 positive interactions to 1 neutral, not even negative interaction, and common language. So at Emerson, we SOAR, which is safe, on task, acting as a team, and resilient. And so we use that common language in all settings. We have Eagle tickets and different celebrations to recognize and support the work that students are doing. Thank you for asking that, Danielle. So we have PBIS, which is really around those routines and consistency and positive interactions. And what we found is restorative justice is really helping support that community building. And then when there's conflict, how do we respond in a way that's rooted in love and care? And so we found that having both is really helping support our students and our school. And I think we came back from being away for a year and a half, but doing those community circles, keeping that common language. It was really amazing to see just how our students came back and like, this is my school and I know what to do. And I know a community circle and I know this language. And so I think to be able to maintain that from when we last left, right now, like 2 years ago, from when students came back this September, I think is a testament to the work of the amazing staff and the supports and the importance of these practices.
Do you get a lot of feedback from their families? Because these kids are bringing these ideas home to their family cultures. And I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. We also host multiple family. They're currently only virtual. We can't wait to be able to shift that when it's safe with families as well, because we do realize, especially for a 6 or 7 year old, if we're responding in one way here and it may be different elsewhere, and that can be confusing. So we have been hosting throughout the time with Wild Black different family events where we get to share about these practices and get to model it. So we had one where we played some games virtually, and then we actually had prompts and showed how to lead a community circle, and then turned our screens off and sent families to go have a community circle to experience that and then come back. So that is a piece that we know we need to continue to work on. And again, just continue to be clear at Emerson, this is how we respond, and to model that. And I think one of the things we're seeing is students, we call them peacekeepers, right, are also our older students being trained in this. As students are embracing it, we're finding when a conflict happens, students are now asking, right? Like, okay, we need to talk with Miss Keisha. And that's really great, right? Students are able to name, this is what will help. I know there's a resource and I know that we'll be able to resolve it. And so that is something that I think over time, I think will take a couple of years for us to fully all understand, because we're still learning it ourselves.
That's
Right.
so
And
cool.
just so you know that we are implementing a community-wide PBIS through Rainier Beach Action Coalition. So you may have seen the language in the neighborhood: be safe, be respectful, be responsible. We have banners and yard signs all over the neighborhood, at Rainier Beach, at South Shore, all over Safeway. We have the Be Safe Bros in the parking lot at Safeway, feeding the community, having healing circles, things like that. So we've already started doing it in the neighborhood, implementing it. Parents and community actually came up with those community-wide values to be safe, respectful, and responsible. We painted them on the beer shifa bathroom, and we also did the Pho Van restaurant that was a sore eye in the neighborhood.
Cool.
So who would be the contact for that community-wide
Me,
outreach?
me,
Who's me?
Danielle.
Oh, Danielle.
Jackson.
Okay, I can't see
Yeah.
your picture.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry, Danielle Jackson.
okay, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Danielle. And Wablock also, I know they're a community-based organization. And so they also, as you were talking about healing circles, have been leading in some of that work as well. And they actually originally, and still are, working in Rainier Beach High School. So they are in multiple settings within the community.
We're very connected with them.
So you know how great it is.
My kids have long since graduated from Seattle Public Schools, so I've been pretty detached from the school system. But I just wanted to say thank you for keeping the education train rolling through COVID and the very difficult times that we've had.
Thank you. It has been quite a few years. And as we know, our students are amazing and brilliant and so caring. And so seeing them in person definitely helps remind us why it is so worth it, because they are just such an amazing group of students.
So I'm curious, Erin, how long have you been at Emerson? Because I know the turnover has been really high at that school with principals.
Yeah, I'm in my 5th year at Emerson. So and I was at Aki Grossi Middle School as the math science assistant principal for 3 years prior to that. So we have seen, to that question as well, just less turnover with our staff, where we're now, and again, with the pandemic in this year, but we're now just at a typical attrition rate. And so that's also something that has been a focus in the last 5 years, is that keeping staff, because we know as we're starting work, you need to continue to build that momentum with the same staff. And so that is something that we celebrate, is that we're now just at a typical traditional attrition rate and able to retain staff.
Yeah, when Cora started, it was Farrah Thaxton, and she was cool as a distant memory. Then we had Dr. Drake, and we really loved her, and things went well. But then when you took over, it did seem like the teachers, and as far as my limited socials, it seemed like they really like smooth things out. I don't know. That's my observation, but I appreciate you, Erin. That's all I'm saying. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I love Miss Zinus. She brought so much fun, and all my kids' teachers were so groovy. Like I loved going to the planetarium, and the Cedar River watershed, and all these other field trips I got to go on with you, all because I was part of your guys' school. Yeah, it was good times.
That's right. I love that one.
Mhm.
Well, and thank you. And again, we can't do it without the support of our families, which we know, and they know their children the best. And so we learned so much from our families, and we are proud to be at Emerson, and our staff are really proud to be there too. And so that is something I think our students see as well, as we build in that pride. So you'll see us in the mug, we are the Emerson Eagles. And so the Eagles show up, and SOAR shows up in a lot of our language and the things that we do, just as we want to make sure that students feel that pride in their school and their community school.
That's definitely carried over into our household, like SOAR. We talk about. Yeah.
There's a cheer we do, and we virtually have assemblies now, but I can still hear it as kids are saying it in the classrooms, which is a lot of fun.
So nobody probably can wear the mascot uniform right now, right? Or because of COVID, or have you started wearing it again?
We have not yet worn it. That's a great point. We were able to, I think my second year, it was a partner with the city in a focus on having students eat breakfast. And so we got a Eagle mascot out of it, like full head to toe mascot. I don't know if you were it once.
I was the mascot 4 times.
That's what I thought.
I managed to keep it secret from my kids. So when I told them, did you know that I was that Eagle mascot? They were like, yeah, they did not. I was doing the dances, and like, oh yeah.
That's awesome. That's so fun.
Mhm.
We'll have to bring it back out when we get to be more together. We did ask our families if they wanted to be it, because when it was predominantly just staff, the students would be able to look around and be like, who's not in the room right now? And then we know who the Eagle is. So that is always something, if somebody would like to have the experience of being a mascot, we have a really great Eagle, and the kids love it.
Oh, fun.
You have this 2 tiny little eye holes. You got like no peripheral vision. You just see straight ahead, but you got this massive eagle head on you.
We don't walk far when we're in it. I think there are also questions about, I think it was end of year or field day. So we are currently planning on having field day. Some of the specifics of what it'll look like, we'll learn with health and safety protocols adjusting. That is during the day outside. Our PTA, which I'll talk about in just a moment, is partnering with it. It's a really fun event. It would be very nice to be able to get back to some of these things that kids remember, right? That like mean so much. So that is something that we do towards the end of the school year in June. And I think there was also the little library. So that was in partnership with the PTA. Actually, I think Brent, do you want to speak about it?
That was my last kind of thing as the Emerson PTA when they, is there, how do you pronounce her name? Rasheen?
Oh, Roisin.
Rasheen, yeah, talked about it. And I was like, well, I know a guy, my boss, Anthony, he might be interested in helping. And it just, he ran with it. I did some design work and I did some painting and I helped him with the assembly, but mainly he made it just as with his tools, his craftsmanship, and we put it in, and I'm so glad it looks so good.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is beautiful. Thank you again. It is really beautiful. The kids love it. And again, it was made in honor of Tina Buster, who was our previous librarian, who sadly passed away about 1.5 years ago. And anybody can add or borrow from it. And it's out in front where the buses, you probably see if you're around during dismissal where the buses are, because students can come and go and get books. And I've been there where students are looking and they're like, this is a great book to read tonight. So that's our hope is, again, we talk a lot at Emerson about the joy of reading, and just to continue to talk about the joy of reading, and that reading can bring people joy, and just keeping that out and about and present. So our PTA, Roisin, is our PTA president. And so a couple of things that she could not join today, she really wanted to, but actually she's at a meeting with Seattle Parks about Hutchinson Park. So, and about the place. So that's why I was like, oh, we should do this. So otherwise she would be here today, but they get a chance to talk about wanting that updated, upgraded. So just a couple of things that I wanted to make sure I shared about the PTA. It's an amazing group, families. Again, we're a newer PTA, and it's been a really lovely partnership to have. They've really focused on supporting families in need. So one of their predominant goals is to help support families with needs in ways that maybe us as a school cannot. They did some really wonderful things throughout the pandemic and being able to provide gift cards for families in times of need, especially around the holidays. So they've helped fund that. We've done different drives for things to help make sure that basic supplies are available. So they're really rooted in that. We also, as a school, are working with the district and the city, and the PTA is supporting that. We're hoping to get a rain garden at Emerson. It's taken a little bit of time. We are a historical building as well as the pandemic, but I think something's going to happen maybe this summer. And so that's another space if you'd like to help support. We'll be looking at some designs in the next couple of weeks to have a rain garden. And on the back, so that there will be one in front, on the back side of the building, there's a garden. And we're hoping through this, we can get some cisterns and things where we can water, students can plant and learn more with hands-on learning. And so something that I don't know if it'll be up and running this summer, but in the future would be helping support watering things throughout the summer. And then I have here the PTA, I can copy the link, sorry, when I'm done, I'll put them in the chat. The PTA Square site where you can donate or join the PTA if you'd like. And then also the Facebook site. They do a really nice job updating and posting things there. So it's a great place to see what's going on at Emerson. And so then I can pass it over also to Danielle. So Hutchinson the playground. So our PTA is actually also with Stu, who you mentioned, working to, they're trying to share a petition to try to get our playground updated, and we'd like it truly updated, not just fixed. That's what we're asking for. We found out we're one of 3 schools that use the Seattle Public Schools park. And so What we have found is in this specific playground last year, the slide broke. It took quite a bit to get that replaced. And now you can see boards that bridge. There are sections that are breaking off and are not safe. I believe we're on a list potentially in 5 or 6 years for it to be upgraded, but we'd like to have that sooner, as well as like the wood chips and just making it a softer place for students to land when you're on the monkey bars. And so that is something that they're actively trying to pursue, and I think would really appreciate any support from this group if that's something that you'd like to do as well. I believe that's it. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and if there are any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
Erin, I had
Do
a
you have
question.
that? Do you have that link, Erin?
Yeah, let me copy them into the chat.
Thank you. I've already signed it, but there might be some people that haven't on the.
Absolutely.
I have a question after you get the link in. I don't want
Yeah,
to make you
go
do
ahead.
multitask.
It's okay.
I'm terrible at multitasking, so I just want to let you know.
You're good.
So you've already gotten the rain garden. You've already gotten someone to come out and consult and say that you only can get cisterns and you don't get a garden, or can you explain? Like, do you know how that? I have a rain garden, and someone comes out and like tells you what you can have and what you can't have. So cisterns is what you can have. Is that the only thing that you can have?
We can have a rain garden, and we'll be looking as both the school community, a couple designs of where
Mhm.
And how it would look, as well as with the PTA in our community.
Mhm.
And in addition to the rain garden, we have on the, sorry, I wasn't clear, on the back side of the building, raised garden beds, but they need some loving care and some updating. And so our hope is that through this project, the garden where we could plant different like vegetables and
Okay.
could be upgraded, and that we could add more cisterns to help water those.
Okay. Yeah, because just so you know, cisterns are they're harder to manage than just a regular garden. Regular garden just works, and then the cisterns you have to like, gather the water, and then during a certain time, and then you turn it off and turn it on and have a hose. And just so there's management with cisterns, there's no management as basically with a garden. So
Rain garden.
yeah, rain garden.
And Erin, you are aware that Seattle TILF or TILF Alliance does help provide assistance with gardens in the community.
I
They
don't
have programs. You
I
don't know? You don't?
No,
you don't?
that sounds familiar. So we should chat. All right.
Yeah, it's part of Rainier Beach Urban Farm. We have a farm right behind Beersheba Park. So yeah, let's talk.
Okay, great.
Well, Erin, my question is, what other, if you're not part of the PTA and don't want to be part of the PTA, what kind of volunteer opportunities would there be, are there at the school?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And that answer is kind of ever changing a little bit right now. So I'll just kind of go, because we're leaning more towards how things were pre-pandemic. So in Seattle Public Schools, you can volunteer within the building, and there's a volunteer application process that has some lessons and background checks embedded in it that everybody would need to complete. So that's the first step. And then we just now are able to have volunteers come in to the building for reasons other than safety and supports. And so what has that in the past has looked like is sometimes we had people come in and help teachers make copies or a project that they have that they would have spent hours on. It's looked like reading alongside students. It's looked like playing with kids at recess. So there are many different ways that people can volunteer directly into the building that aren't necessarily tied within the PTA.
Okay, great.
Thank you. And those are just now reopening, which we're excited about.
Cool.
I would also say that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Erin, but you can be a part of the PTA, Emerson PTA, and not have a kid there, you know, if you're a community member, right? Like I remember like Yvette Denish and stuff would come to a lot of, and she didn't have a kid there, and others, I can think of a few like community members, and you don't have to go to every meeting or any, you don't like, just, it's a good way to be on the email list anyway, to see like what people are looking for volunteers. Yeah. I'd add that. Yeah.
Are there any other questions of Erin? Well, thank you so much. This is very interesting. And I was just, yeah, you guys do a lot, and thank you. This is great.
It was wonderful.
Yep.
Thank
Thank
so
you.
for having me, for having Emerson here. And I look forward to continuing to connect. Danielle, I think we will on some things. And again, I think just like what you're saying, Brent, feel free to join the PTA or the Facebook page. They do a really nice job updating on upcoming things. They're also linked in with the D7, which is a coalition of Southeast PTAs within